They were, on the contrary, collectivist people, as they liked sharing meals together and so on. It is very important to them to take the time to share this moment with other people. This also relates to the same theory, Hofstede theory, which explains, I quote, that there is a greater importance placed on attaining personal goals, end of quote, when it comes to individualistic societies. And it is true once you get to experience it. My American roommate, at the opposite of Moroccan people, always eats dinner alone in her bedroom, whereas my other roommate and I eat together in the living room. And I did also share meals with Moroccan people, and it is true they like to share meals together, kind of like us, to the opposite of American people. Furthermore, I learned that many people, in my class at least, share the same experience as mine with their own American roommates, as it is part of their more individualistic culture.
So, after reading Mathieu's introspective paper and when I compare it to my paper, I have realized that we both analyze Edwards' high and low context theory. So, this theory implies that high context countries communicate often implicitly, and they rely on nonverbal cues such as gestures, such as bowing and eye contact. Whereas low context culture is more explicit and they are more straightforward, so they use direct communication. Um, what I found that is common about our paper is that we are both French, so we both are coming from low context culture, meaning that we're really direct and aggressive with our communication. So we don't need to understand the cues that are around. When I compare both of the papers, I can see that, well, the common is that I compare a high context culture, which is Spain, and the culture of Mathieu is Japan, the Asian culture. So in my example, I decided to say that I had to analyze the high context cues of Spaniards, because they really use high gesture and they spoke really fast. So because they spoke really fast, I really had to understand the gestures and also the facial expressions in order to get the whole context. This isn't clear because he had to understand Japan's culture, which is also a high context culture because they use way more external cues. However, it was really different because he used it and he found that Japan people spoke really softly and also they were really gentle because, for example, they bowed and they used eye contact. So this was an external culture. But compared to me, Spaniards, they spoke really fast. So I had to use external gestures to understand what the whole meaning. But for Mathieu, he had to use the external cues to understand the relationships and also more the meaning of it. So this is the comparison. Here, it was really interesting to read Mathieu's paper because I can see that both countries can come from a high context culture, so they really need to use gestures and also more eye contact, but it is totally different. Whereas Spaniards, they like to express themselves, so this is why they talk with the hands. But for Japan, it's more in terms of code of conduct. So this is my analysis of my experience and Mathieu's experience, relating it to Edward.
So, good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I would like to share my observation on cultural differences during my travels with you by connecting them to those of my colleagues. While traveling around the globe, I've observed that each nation has its own set of cultural dimensions that influence how people connect and converse. First, during my visit to Miami, I noticed that the relaxed society, which contrasted with my French background, people in Miami have the freedom to express themselves without the worry of being evaluated. Indulgence versus restraint is an essential element of cultural distinction according to the Hofstede six cultural dimensions. Hofstede cultural dimensions theory, which named the four main dimensions that shape a society, is one aspect that connects my experience to Flavie's experience. She focused on the effect of individualist collectivism on behavior, such as how America and French roommates wake up early in the morning and how they handle their time differently. It also discussed on power distances, influence, how people perceive various hobbies, and how it creates various status hierarchy in college. Second, during my 10 days journey in Japan, I observed that people communicating primarily through nonverbal cues. I was used to a society where people spoke openly and clearly, so the significance of nonverbal communication in Japanese culture struck me. As Edward Hall suggests, eye context communication is often more implicit and relies on nonverbal cues, whereas low context communication is more explicit and straightforward. In comparison, Lola used the theory of Edward Hall in the third shared experiment. She mentioned that she stepped out of their personal bubble to share their habits with the American student in the French circle at the NCSU. In doing so, they were able to define the cultural use of space, social interaction, and communication with each other, which is consistent in the old theory of proxemics. My one weekend to Amsterdam was an eye-opening culture adventure. I grew up in a family where timeliness was highly prized. However, I observed that people in Amsterdam were more casual about time and plans. Some societies value the flexibility and freedom over punctuality and obedience to timetable, according to the Erin Meyer theory of flexible and linear time. In the framework of a cross-cultural communication, Roxane examined the Erin Meyer ideas of flexible and linear time. Roxane discussed her personal experience studying abroad in Spain and Morocco, and emphasis on how knowing cultural differences has helped her connect and accomplish objectives in a multicultural settings. She concluded that her experience as a stranger in a strange country has verified the significance of theory like the culture map and the 6 aspects of national culture in intercultural dialogue. In conclusion, I've learned that cultural dimension play a crucial role in shaping how people communicate and interact. It is essential to appreciate and understand the unique cultural dimension of others as we travel and interact with people from different backgrounds. By doing so, we can broaden our cultural awareness and cultivate empathy toward peoples from diverse backgrounds. My travel taught me that cultural diversity is something to celebrate, not fear, and I hope they inspire you to explore the cultural differences of others with an open mind and heart. Thank you, have a good day.